name is Frank Hardy. I'm an artist, author, and storyteller. And we're relatives.
Basically.
Well, your aunt is married to my cousin, Johnny. And we were all, when I was living in Selma, we interacted a lot. And Johnny was also, we worked together for a long time at a local factory here in Selma. So we go back a long ways.
My folks aren't just permanent fixtures of Selma, Alabama. They are genuinely likable serial entrepreneurs. Connections abound, and so do family members. Around those parts, pulling up to the function and running into a relative you never knew you had is normal. Titi was talking to me about how you convinced him to go to a club once and that y'all never went back again. And I said, Titi, you went to that club again. And she was like, okay, maybe twice. So, were you guys like getting in trouble together and things like that?
Not really. At that time, I was the club owner. I owned the club, you know. So it was one of those situations. Yeah.
What was the name of the club?
Fire's Furnace.
You can probably tell by just looking at him, but Mr. Frank Hardy is a multi-hyphenate. He introduced himself as an artist and storyteller, but that doesn't even scratch the surface of his resume. After owning Fire's Furnace, he was a boxer, an oil driller from Alaska to Bogota, and perhaps most fondly, a child advocate at the Selma Youth and Development Center.
When I first came back to Selma, I remember what boxing did for me. Boxing taught me how to deal with life. And I used boxing, and I wanted to pass that on. See, I was one of those street kids. I was one of those kids that was getting in trouble. I was one of those kids who got in a lot of fights. I was dealing with my own anger, trying to manage that. But my first boxing match, I got knocked down. And I was angry. But I had to get up off the floor to win the match. And from that day on, I understood that you can't be angry at your problems because you have to think. You have to strategize how not to make those same mistakes that got you knocked down in the beginning. I use boxing as a way to teach myself discipline. And so I figured, when I came back to Selma, I knew boxing. So I said, I want to give something back to the community. So sometimes you just have to give what you have. I knew that, so I said, I give that. So we opened up the youth center, and we was teaching kids how to box and how to, and using boxing as a tool to teach anger management. And it worked very well. We had a national champion. We had state champions every year. I took my kids all over the country competing. I was head coach for the Southern team 2 years in a row in Colorado Springs at the U.S. Olympic Training Center. And I became head coach because I put more boxers on the team than any team in our region. And our region consists of Tennessee, Mississippi, Florida, Georgia. I mean, it was a lot of teams, but this little team from Selma, Alabama, put more boxers on the team than any other team. And so I was team coach out at the U.S. Olympic Village in Colorado Springs. And so that's I was just using boxing, not so much because I wanted to make boxers out of the kids, but I wanted the kids to have a way to deal with life. Because life is a struggle, life is a fight. And the only way you improve yourself in life is don't run from the struggle. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Don't be talking about why it's always me. Don't worry about what white America won't give for you. Don't worry about why white America don't want to make things equal. What you do is you look at what you have and you make the most of it. You may not have what other people have as far as to success, but you have to make maximum use out of what you do have. And if you can do that, you can be successful no matter what.
Selma Youth Development Center's boxing program led to a dance program, which led to an art program, which led to a computer lab. Each initiative is a mode of expression oh so crucial to a child. Frank still keeps in contact with some of the center's former participants. If be who you needed when you were younger were a person, Frank's that person.
I was searching for me. I was trying to find me. I was trying to find a way to earn a living because I never wanted anybody to give me anything. And so I ended up doing a lot of things. But it's funny, all while I was doing those things, my artistic ability has always been with me. But during my younger years, no one valued my artistic ability. No one, even when I was in school, nobody ever said I could go and be a great artist. Basically, they focused on my inability. They said, well, he don't read too good, so he's slow. He has learning disability. No one ever thought about he has an amazing amount of creativity and imagination. And sometimes we get focused too much on what a child can't do till we don't see what a child can do. If we start looking at, in other words, sometimes we focus too much on the glass being half empty instead of half full. And that was the main thing we tried to teach at the youth center. We tried to create a culture of understanding that your glass is already half full. And because of that, we had a lot of success stories.
So when did you discover your artistic ability?
I didn't. It discovered me. Like I said, I've always been an artist. I just didn't know it. I used my art, like if someone made me mad or if I was depressed or angry, I would go sit somewhere by myself and I just draw, sit and be creative, and it calmed me. It gave me a sense of, it was like my sanctuary. That's where I went. And as I got older, I found myself going there more and more. And one day I discovered that this is my God-given talent. I didn't go to school to learn any of this.
By now you have a pretty good idea of who Frank was. Now allow him to tell you who he is.
I try to tell my stories through my art. And I also feel like that's a way of me contributing to society. If I just continue to do my art and make statements through my art, then perhaps I can make a difference.
And so, for the painting behind you, it's very clear what it represents. For some people who might not get it, what does it represent?
This painting is called Liberty Denied. See, America always talk about liberty and justice for all, but they have these double standards. They talk about liberty and justice for all, but when it comes to minorities or people that's less represented, so to speak, they're always trying to deny them their liberties, And so, and it's been happening. It didn't just happen. It's been happening to people of color ever since we've been in this country. It's like America has a way of, America have a way of perfecting the art of hypocrisy. Like they've turned hypocrisy into an art. They take all these positive things and they, like the Constitution, like religion, and they use these positive things as a weapon of oppression. Like in this painting, it talks about freedom of speech, and it talks about, but in 65, the people even asked or talked about wanting freedom. They were persecuted for it. So I'm trying to tell these stories through my artwork. And that's why this one's called Liberty Denied. Because on that day, they was truly denied their liberty. If you notice, his flesh is tinted with red, white, and blue. And they're always talking about, you hear white America very often talk about people of color having contributed to make this country great. And then the history books always show all the great things that white America has done. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin, But they was only able to do what they was able to do because they stood on our shoulders. Ever since black people came to this country, we've been contributing. You know, they had 400 years of free labor. You know, black people have contributed with their blood, their sweat, and their tears. And that's what this piece represents. You know, that piece is called Tears of My Father.
Let me give you a brief trigger warning. I know we've touched on it, but the following message contains glass half full rhetoric ad nauseum. And I know. Coronavirus, Uncle Sam, Black Lives Matter, Stop Asian Hate, Free Palestine, it's a lot. A bevy of stimuli coming in from every direction, so staying positive feels like an Olympic sport. But it ain't like Frank was living it up with Patti LaBelle. So hear him out.
Now, I was always looking at what I didn't have, and I was using these things to create obstacles for my own success. And sometimes when you do that, you give yourself reasons. You give yourself a reason not to succeed. You know, but when I got involved with these kids, what happened was, I realized although I didn't have a college degree and all this education and all this stuff, I realized I became valuable to them. You know, because I knew the walk that they was walking. I knew their journey. You know, I could relate to them. I could relate to those kids out there trying to sell drugs, and those kids out there involved in criminal activities, and those kids who have dropped out of school. I could relate to them because I was one of them. And then I realized all of my inabilities became assets. And then I started to realize that sometimes God don't give you the education that you think you want, but he always gives you the education that you need. If I had not been out there on the street struggling, if I had not been out there on the street seeing my friends get hooked on drugs and stealing and all these, I would not have had the tools I needed in order to reach the kids that I was able to reach. So that's when I realized all the time I thought my glass was half empty, it was really half full. My advice to anyone, understand that if you are here, you are significant. If you are breathing today, you're part of God's plan. Your life is no accident. The mere fact that you are here means you're part of God's plan. There's no way you cannot be significant. But if you don't understand that you can be significant in this world, then you never will be. You know, you have to understand that you have something to give and start giving what you can. You may not be able to give what other people can give, but take my word for it. You have something that you can give to make society better for those coming behind you. Your life is no accident.
Now I'm going to sit back and let Frank bless us with our new daily Black formations. Mr. Hardy's closing sentiments were profound in a way none of us could have predicted in February of 2020.
This is what I recommend for our people. Quite often, we hold ourselves back because we worry too much about white people won't give us an even break. White people always trying to oppress us. And what white America do, we worry too much about the fact that the system is not fair to us. And once we get focused on that, it's easy for us to quit because we feel like, well, I'm gonna give up because they're not gonna give me an even break anyway. But what they don't understand is our forefathers, our ancestors, our grandparents, they did not succeed because of what white people did for us. They succeeded in spite of what they did to us. And we need to understand, we are probably, I would say we're the strongest people in this nation. Who else could have gone through what we've gone through and now we're producing a president? You know? So what we have to understand is, in spite of the playing field, in spite of the injustice, in spite of these things, we can still be successful because we're black people. And black people know how to take anything and make something out of it. We're creative. When society make our road difficult, do not lay down and feel sorry for yourself because you got a difficult road and say, woe is me. Embrace the struggle as part of the process. Because when we embrace the struggle as part of the process, we understand that it's just something we're going through. This struggle is going to make me stronger. So all I can say is, we're in the midst of a struggle right now, but there's no reason to feel sorry for yourself. There's no reason to fall into self-pity. Embrace the struggle as part of the process.
And even if you do end up slipping into a little pity party of one, remember these words from the great life scholar, artist, and storyteller. If you are here, you are significant.